This is for the Algebra 1 students. We are simplifying rational expressions. And I'm just going to work through some of the problems that you have on your worksheet, and I'll pick and choose a few of them so then you can work on your own. What you're doing is simplifying the rational expressions, and so when you're looking at this, first of all, there's a negative, but then you're also looking at the coefficients with the number part, and then the variable terms too. And notice this is division. So you're basically, like we said, simplifying. You're reducing these terms. So that's a negative. But then what's the greatest common factor of 36 and 42? And that's 6. So 36 divided by 6 is 6. 42 divided by 6 is 7. But then your variables here, your bases, your variable bases. You have x cubed divided by x squared, and when you have the same base and you're dividing, you do what with the exponent? Of course you subtract. X cubed divided by x squared is just x to the first power, but don't write the first power. So technically this is negative 6x divided by 7. Now that negative on the outside is the same thing as a negative 6x over 7, or 6x over a negative 7. But typically we won't leave a negative in the denominator. And typically if one of these are negative, it makes the whole fraction negative. Okay, something like this. Watch this. And so this is finished. That's done. That says all you can do. You can't simplify it anymore. Here you got to be careful. 16 divided by 16, well that's 1. But then r squared divided by r cubed. Which one? This is saying r times r, and this is saying r times r times r. Well, those 16s cancel out, and you have this r that cancel out and that r that cancel out. You cannot just leave an r in denominator without putting a 1 in the numerator. So that's going to be 1 over r. If you cancel everything out in your numerator, you need to make sure that you have a 1 in the numerator, and then whatever's left in your denominator. But you're saying 1r, 1 divided by r, or 1 over r. So be careful with that. So when you are doing the variables, check to see which one has the greater exponent. So if there's 3 down here and 2 up, or 1 up there, you're going to have 2 more n's down here, so n squared. Okay? Hey, let's go down to a problem like this. And let's just jump to this one. You can go back and do number 7. But looking here, well, okay, 45 and 10a minus 10. Well, what we could do is we can take this and we can factor out the greatest common factor between these two. So 45, I can bring the 45 over. I can't do anything with it yet. But I can take a 10. You're dividing a 10 from both of these terms. So that's going to be a minus 1. Now I look at it and say, okay, 45 and 10, what number goes into both of those? Well, we can divide each of those by 5. So 45 divided by 5 is 9. 10 divided by 5 is 2. And then 2 times a over 1. Or you can divide both by, so you can just leave it like this. This is actually setting us up for what we're going to do down here. But this is how you can simplify that expression, and you can leave it like that. Okay? And let's go down to something like number 9. X minus 4. But then down here, 3x squared minus 12x. Now we've been doing this when we've been solving our quadratics, that we've been pulling out the greatest common factor. So we can go ahead and pull out, what can you pull out of both of these terms? Well, you can pull out a 3x. I can pull out a 3x, and then you get x minus 4. Well, now notice these two terms can cancel out. They're the same. It's x minus 4 and x minus 4. So what you did here is you pulled out the 3x, which means you're dividing each of these terms by 3x. So now I'm left with these two cancel out, so I'm left with 1 over 3x. Okay, so that is what you're going to be doing here, is you're going to be factoring that you've done before, and then canceling out anything that's on the top exactly as on the bottom. So let's do number 11. So we have v minus 5. I can't do anything with that first. But now let's factor. You are trying to find what two numbers are. This is a 1 here. So you can do that a times c b method, or think about this. Well, v squared minus 10v plus 25. What two numbers multiply to get 25 but add together to get a negative 10? In the v squared, you have v and v. So what two numbers multiply to get a 25? but add together to get a negative 10. Now this is being positive, so the only way that can happen is if they're both negative. Okay, so what you have, again, that has the v minus 5 times the v minus 5. Now, v minus 5, v minus 5, v minus 5, it looks all the same, but you can only, once you cancel this out, you can only cancel one of these. So that final answer is going to be 1 over v minus 5. So when you solve these type of problems, I want to see your factoring first, then what you canceled out in your final answer. Do not just give me one final answer. Okay, so many of these are going to require quite a few steps. Up here, you could probably do it in one step. I mean, you can do a lot of this math mentally. Here, 70/28. Notice that's like an improper fraction. You can leave it as an improper fraction when you finish. That's fine. Same with this one, if it doesn't. So, but I want you to work on that. Back here, you notice the problems look a little bit more difficult. Some of them you're going to have to factor both of them and cancel out anything that you might have to do. So let's just do number 20. So you're going to factor this first. You're looking for, this is not all of them. Some of them start with a different number of 1 in the front. So, but most of them are starting these trinomials with the 1 in the front. So what you're looking here for, what you're looking for, what two numbers multiply to get a negative 14, but add together to get a negative 5. Okay, so 14, 1 and 14, 2 and 7, those are the only factors. So I know it's 2 and 7, but it's a negative. So one of these have to be a negative, but I have to add to a negative 5. So that one has to be a negative 7, that's positive 2. This one, so we need to say, okay, what two numbers multiply to get a positive 4, but add to get a 4? Well, that's going to be v plus 2 and v plus 2. So these two cancel out. Our final answer, v minus 7, v plus 2. Okay, so please show that factoring and then this. If you do it on another piece of paper, that's fine, but that paper better be stapled to this because I want to see all of your work, right? Something like this, when it has x cubed, factor out that x first. Okay, that might help with this one. So, but good luck. You're going to be working on this on Monday the 25th. There will be an answer key. The sub will have an answer key ready for you to check, and then you can make sure you have this done, but make sure you have it done for Tuesday. You're working on Monday, but then you have it done for Tuesday. That's not too blurry. All right, thanks guys.